Greetings, market researchers. This is Marc Dresner coming to you from the Market Research event in San Diego. This is November 8th. This is our first day, and we've got quite a bit going on with symposia. I have here with me joining, we have Mike Mabey, and we have Christina Liao. And Christina is the Vice President of Marketing Science for CMI. Mike is an account manager with CMI, and they both gave a very interesting presentation earlier this afternoon. But before we go into that, I just want to ask each of you, what were your most memorable moments today? What really stood out to you?
I think for me, I was particularly interested in getting to know more about social media and its use, because that's something that we will include in our product portfolio. So I got a lot of good insights in that area. So I was very excited to learn more about that.
And for me, it was the mix of social media and quantitative analysis. And there was one presentation that was very strong in that area, and giving a little bit of history of where it's come from and why you need to integrate those social media and that type of platform into your surveys and into your research work in general.
A lot of buzz about social media today, definitely. Let's talk about segmentation, though, which is what the two of you came to talk about today. Tell us a little bit about your presentation in brief. What did you talk about, and what did you feel the reaction was?
I thought we had a great presentation. It's a great turnout for our presentation. It was about 80 people in the room, so that's great. And it's very clear that people show a lot of interest, because we're presenting a new methodology, which is to use the consumer's decision pathway to decision making as a way to segment the customers, because traditionally we don't actually look at the pathway. I mean, we do look at the different elements in terms of their behaviors, but we don't look at how they make decision and why they made the final decision to do that. So I thought it was a great turnout. Yeah.
And we had a lot of people in the room who are with large companies. And so they frequently are involved with very complex decision-making situations. And this is a tool that's really useful in complex decision-making, as opposed to a simple, oh, price A, buy it, B, done. These are much more complex, and so you could see that people in the room, it was resonating with them that, yeah, we have that kind of a problem. We don't know exactly how come people bought something. We just know they bought it. And so how can we get back to that why?
Segmenting on that why is a really unconventional approach. It's a little unorthodox, but I was in your presentation, so it was interesting to see the reactions of the people in the room, because I did see almost light bulbs going off on people's heads. Why present this at the market research event, if I can ask you? What about this particular venue attracted you?
Well, it's really a powerful venue for us. We've been here for a number of years and sponsored for a number of years. And it's just a large crowd of very well-educated people, educated in market research. So they know what they're doing, and it's a good venue for us to present complex information to. Because, you know, if you present it to some place where people are fairly low level, then they might not get it. And in a 40-minute presentation, you don't have any time to teach them. You've got to just say, this is what we're doing, and they have to get it. So this is a very strong venue for us, and we think it's a really strong venue for research.
Yeah, and I think, yes, I think there are a wide variety of industries represented at the venue, which is very key for us, because we do a lot of work with a wide variety of industries, especially service industries, where there are a lot of complex decisions they have to make. So I think it's very valuable for them to learn about this new approach.
Absolutely, absolutely. Any final thoughts on the future of segmentation? Because you kind of are really on the cutting edge of it in terms of the approach you're taking. Where do you go from here?
I think that social media. I think that there's some we have to figure out how to get that better integrated, and that's part of what we're trying to do, is to say, okay, these are complex decisions, and can social media help out in that area? So maybe it's trying to integrate that into it, as opposed to keep social media separate and say, okay, just social media. It isn't just social, it's everything. But how do you get them together? And how do you make that work? Yes, yes.
Yeah, I think it's a key of using, getting to really understand the customers and let the company immerse in the customer's world. So in the context of the decision pathway, it's what are all the critical elements to include. And one of them, for example, is social media, and also the trend. You know, not just what are the trend out there, but how the customers or consumers take the trend and translate that into how that trend can meet their needs. And I think that's something we need to build into our decision pathway when we segment the customers to really truly get at making the segments more predictable in terms of the future behaviors, because then the company can plan new product offerings even more effectively.
How far along would you say you are toward getting to that goal? Obviously in some early exploratory phases. Right?
Yes, I think we have this approach with a couple of industries, and so our goal is to have the application in as many industries as possible, and so we can see what are some of the challenges in a different industry and what are some of the elements or critical factors we need to consider in one industry that we may not need to consider in another industry. So I think we're kind of in the midst of doing all that, and but I think our approach is definitely different and unique from what's a conventional way of doing it. So I think there is a lot of future and potential in that.
What sort of response have you had in terms of the results of the kind of segmentation approach that you spoke about today with your clients?
Oh, we had people lined up at the front of the, and really there was a lot of interest. And we get a lot of interest wherever we speak to clients about it, and mainly because it does resonate. And there's always, now of course, that doesn't mean all clients are going to use it or even should. In fact, we know that all clients shouldn't use it, but they're very interested and it resonates with them as, yeah, that's important to what we do and how we do it. So we do need to know more about that sort of decision-making process and the linkages and interactions between the different parts of the decision-making process.
You mentioned that some shouldn't use it. Can you give me a reason why or an example of what are you referring to there?
Because with segmentation, it's important to have variability and variety of information. So if it's an industry where for whatever reason they have very limited information that they can use to build a segmentation, this approach would be, it's almost like too complicated an approach because they might be at the infancy of trying to, at the beginning of a product development or just want to do a small market assessment study. This would not be the best approach. But as the product get introduced into the market and there'll be more interest and more factors that play into people's purchasing criteria, this will become more relevant and more critical for them to look at it. So it depends on the stage in terms of the client's needs. Exactly. Right.
Well, the other part of that is that up until Christina developed this new model, we used latent class analysis as our form of research. So we are very comfortable working with it, and that allows us to say, yeah, this one works for this, but for this one, no, not so much. So, so that's helpful to our clients.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, some terrific thoughts on the future of segmentation from Christina Liao and Mike Mabey of CMI. And if you'd like more information, please visit the TMRE website. Thank you both for joining us today.